video and I'm also going to record it so that I have it for your record in case you need it. So today we're going to talk about data visualization with Power BI. Now, Power BI is a visualization tool from Microsoft, right? Now, so before we proceed further, I'll just give you a quick overview about Power BI. And also, I want everybody to keep your Power BI desktop, the application handy, right? Now, so Power BI has a lot of components. I'm going to talk about 6 major components. Some people will say that there are these 4 components or these 8 components, but if you know about these 6 components, this will make your life more or less easy, and you will also understand the main nuts and bolts of Power BI. So number one component is Power BI desktop. So Power BI desktop is a desktop application to create reports and visualization. Sorry about that typo over here. So now, like the name suggests, desktop, it's available on your desktop and you can create visualization and reports with that. Next is Power BI service. So Power BI service is nothing but a SaaS or software as a service, right? So, and it is used to view and publish reports. So what is SaaS? A very good example of SaaS is if you have worked with Google spreadsheet. So that's a very good example of SaaS because it's a software, but you're getting it online as a service, right? Or if you talk about Google Docs, right? So it's a something like a Word doc, but you can access it online by logging in and accessing it, right? So that's a SaaS. So when you have desktop available online as a service, it becomes a Power BI service, which is a SaaS service. Power BI Mobile, as the name suggests, is used for accessing your reports in Power BI on your iOS or Android device. That is basically on your mobile devices. Power BI Gateway is to connect to on-premise data. On-premise data means which is on your premise. Let's say you have your in-house cloud, right, on your organization. That is a on-premise, inside your house, right, on-premise data. Or you can connect to a cloud data set. Let's say there is something on the cloud, maybe some third-party tool, or maybe on some other Google Drive, right, not on-premise. So it can be used as a gateway to connect your data with your Power BI. Power BI embedded, it runs on Azure cloud. Azure is the cloud service from Microsoft, right? And can be used for report creation. ETL is data analysis process, explore, transform, and load, right? I'll explain this more as we proceed further. And for example, you have Azure tenant, which is one of the basic, what do you say, Azure services, and you can connect to Power BI through an Office 365 admin, right? So in short, Power BI embed is used to embed your reports, right, on platform. And Power Query, so as the name suggests, it is used to query your data or to create data connection and transform and reshape your data. So let's say if you want to import an Excel file and then you want to rename some columns, delete some columns, add some columns, so all this can be done using Power Query. As a matter of fact, combine 5 or 6 files together from different data sources, that also can be done using Power Query. So these are the 6 different Power BI components. There could be some other components like Power BI Map, Power Pivot, but I'm not going to talk about them because once you understand these 6 major components, those can be learned separately. Okay, now some of the features of Power BI. This is, I think, the last theoretical slide, and then we will do everything would be hands-on. So we can do visualization with Power BI. As you know, we can create data connections, we can create dashboards. Dashboard is basically has multiple charts and reports, right? Dashboard is a generic term, but if we talk about Power BI, then in Power BI desktop, the one that you have on your system, you create reports. And if you use it online using Power BI services, then you call them as the analogous part is dashboard, right? So dashboard is in Power BI is basically when you use Power BI service, an online service. And if you're using to create something like a dashboard on using Power BI desktop, then you call them as reports. So reports and dashboards are analogous, but you need to know where you're creating them. Don't worry if you're getting confused with this. I'll talk about it a little bit more. Filters, to filter your reports. For example, you want to show reports of only East region or West region or South region, or for a specific department, for HR, for finance or marketing, something like that. To create reports or some ad hoc reports, trend indicators or trend analysis, OLAP, online analytical processing, all these things, right? So I'm not going to talk about each one of them. There is something interesting, which is a Q&A box. So you can, in Power BI desktop, you can, in Power BI, you can put a question like, where is my maximum sales coming from, or in which department maximum attrition is happening. All those can be done, right? So it's a semi AI kind of thing, if you want to call it that way. DAX functions. So there are some functions which you can use and do some kind of data analysis. Yeah. So these are the different features of Power BI and what you can do with that. Okay. Now, so this is how you create a report in Power BI. First of all, you load the data in step one. So in step one, you load your data, right? So here, obviously, you load the data into Power BI, and while loading, you can transform your data. So basically, if you're loading the data at the same time, if you want to do something, let's say your data is for 5 divisions, which includes, let's say, HR, marketing, finance, so on and so forth, and you want to load this entire data set, and then there itself, while loading, you want to just remove other verticals, you just want to capture HR, let's say. So you can do that also. That is transforming the data. You're filtering out the rest of the data, or maybe delete or add some columns. So transform can be done simultaneously while you're loading the data, or you can do it later also. So that's why I've kept it under step 2. Then visualize. So use the uploaded data that you have uploaded and transform and create a visualization, right? So create as many visualization as you want in the next step. Then you create a report. So you bring together all the visualization. Let's say you create a bar chart for some data like maximum sales, different region wise. Next is how is the organization performing in terms of employee development or something like that. And then bring all those 5-6 visualization together in the form of a report when you're talking about Power BI desktop. And then you publish the report. So this is why visualization tools like Power BI and Tableau and other tools are so important, because they have the ability to publish the report. So for example, if you create a chart or a report or dashboard in Excel, it's not very easy to publish that. First of all, it's very most of the times you would not be able to publish it. And even if you somehow manage to publish an Excel report somewhere, which is possible obviously, then also it is not very intuitive. So you can publish very easily using Power BI. Now, what is publishing? Publishing means, in very simple terms, make it available online. As simple as that, right? So these are the 4 or 5 steps. Load the data, transform the data, visualize it, create the report, and publish it. And all of these we are going to do in our forthcoming sessions. So let's see what is there in this Power BI screen. So first of all, let's talk about the anatomy of this Power BI screen. So the most important part of this screen is or are these 3 tabs, right? Report, data, and model. These 3 tabs on the left side are one of the most important things that you should focus your attention on first in the first place, and then the other things will come in due course of time. So let's first talk about the report tab. So report tab, if you click on this tab, right, so you will see this all the icons over here, and some of the things over on the top also change. If you click on something else, this ribbon will slightly change, and these things will also change. Let's talk about them one by one. So in report, what we have is you'll see the ribbon on the top and the various options available here. Like you see this clipboard, data, queries, insert, calculations, all these things, right? And these will slightly change. This ribbon, this is more or less same, for each of these tabs, but it will slightly change once you move from reports all the way down. Okay. Then there is this white canvas, which is where you visualize. So canvas, as the name suggests, is where you paint, right? So this is where you paint your visualization or graphs or charts. Then you will see there are these 1, 2, 3 sidebars, right? Filters, which is used to exclude or include the data, right? So for example, you have some data for different states, and then if you want to filter for specific state, so you can do that over here, just like a filter in Excel. Then there is this visualizations. So you can choose the visualization that you want to do. And this also has two parts. So this is this first one is for charts. The second one is for formatting. So let's say you create a chart, and then in the chart you want to use some different color, not the default color. So you can do that using this format option. So as the name suggests, you can format it also. And then there is this fields option. So when you import your data, all your column names, all the sheets, whatever you're using, become visible over here. So this is the fields section, right? And at the bottom, you can see these pages. Pages you can think of as the sheets in Excel, right? So these are different pages. In each page, you can drag these visualization over here and create different reports in each page. So a report would be collection of multiple chart or a single chart as well, right? And then you can create different pages from that. You can add more page by clicking here, or you can delete a page also by right clicking and using the delete option. And then you would see these 3 arrows over here, right? So if you click them, these will collapse, and if you click them again, it will expand. So I'll show each of these as we do the practical demo pretty shortly. Next tab is the data tab, right? So this is the data tab. If you import your data, you can see a quick view of your data over here, right? And apart from data view, you also see the headers of your data. So if I import this data, the headers of your data are visible here. Please note that there is this summation sign, right? This one. This means that this is numeric data because you can sum this data. But if I have a text data like state or region, so these are text, right? So you cannot sum the names, right? The text field. So that's why I'm not seeing this symbol, right? The summation symbol. So summation means these are mathematical or numeric fields, and the other ones most likely are text fields. And finally, we have this model tab. So this is basically used to model your data. So if you have 2 or 3 data sets or a single data set, you can combine different data together like you do using VLOOKUP. You combine multiple sheets and some few more things, and that's how you use your model tab. Okay. So model tab is basically to model the data. And then finally, to begin with, you need to import your data. So in the ribbon, you have this get data over here, right? Or you have this Excel workbook. So you can even have this Excel option here also, get data, or you can directly use this Excel. They have given this Excel option here so that you have a quick way to import Excel directly from here. Otherwise, if you click on get data over here, these are all the options you have. You can click on this more, and then you have these other options also. So somebody was asking different data types. So you see these are all the data types, and there are, if you scroll down, you will see all these options available to you. So you can import, just I will point out few important ones from Excel over here. Excel can also be done from here also. You can use a text or CSV file from websites. Then you can use an XML file, JSON file, SharePoint folder, Access database, SQL Server, Oracle, all these options, MySQL database, Postgres, and there's so many if you scroll down, right? So in short, you can import a wide variety of data source into your Power BI. Right? Okay. Now, so everybody, I hope, has the data set that I had shared before, right? Which had the India state data, right? Okay, so what you do is you go to get data and go to Excel workbook, right? and then this is the file. Okay, this is the file you have, right? Everybody, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
okay, so I click on this file, and since this is an Excel file, so it will list down all the sheets that are there, right? Now I don't know which sheet I have to use, so what I'll do is I'll just click on this sheet. So mind you, when I click on this sheet, I'm not selecting this, right? You see this is a checkbox over here. So if I select it, then it actually selects and this load option gets activated over here. I'm not selecting it. I'm just doing one click. So it highlights this data. So I can have a preview of this data. And now I know that this is not the data I'm looking for. So I go to the next sheet, next sheet. So likewise, I can go on until I have located the data I want to use, right? This is also not the sheet. So I'm getting a preview of my data. This is also not the sheet. I think so. Okay, so we have, let's say, give me a second. I'll see if this will work for us. Okay, so I will use this. This will also be great because it is not a well structured data, so we can transform our data also, right? So everybody, I hope this is the data in your 8th sheet, right? Everybody has the same data. Can you please confirm like this when you're trying to import it in your Power BI? Sheet 8. Everybody is getting like this, right?
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So if you import, if you see this data, right? So what you can do is you can, now that I have had a look at each of the sheet, I can check this sheet, right? Which means I'm selecting and I'm going to load this data. If I load this data, it gets loaded as is, right? Or I can transform this data. Transform means, let's say in this case, I have these rows on top, which I don't want and I don't like them, right? Because my header is here in this serial number, district, state, right? Okay. So, Avdesh, please let me know in case my video goes off or something, because sometimes network plays an issue. Okay. Now,
Sure.
okay. So few things I would like to do in this would be to, I need to transform this data or make it, transform it into a good looking data so that my Power BI can use it. So what do you think should be done? What are the few mistakes you see here in this data which needs to be corrected? Anybody?
Remove two lines from the top
Okay.
so that headers will be there.
Remove two lines from here. Okay. So if I remove these two lines, but you see the headers are column 1, column 2, column 3. So which means after removing these two lines of code, I also need to convert this as a header, right?
Header, yeah.
So, so what I'm seeing here in the data, the third row in the data should be the header. Or if I remove these two lines, then this goes on top. Then this first row should become the header. Correct? Everybody's with me so far? Any doubts?
Yes.
So let's write them. Let's write them down. So first step is remove first two rows. Okay, first two rows need to be removed. Then the next step is, now after removing these first two rows, this and this serial number, district and state row, this goes here. Then this has to be, whatever is on the first after removing these two has to become the header. So then I'll say make first row after step 1 as header, right? I hope everybody understands this. Okay. And then let's see if I need to do anything else after that. So these two steps, maybe I want to remove this column 10 also, because this is something I don't need. It is showing all null, right? So maybe I have done some calculation in Excel over there, and then it has used that column also. Power BI. So let's do the transformation of data here itself, or you can do it later also, right? So it's up to you when you want to do it. So let's do it later on, because then that will help you understand few other things. So I'm loading this data. So select this and load this. So you see it is loading, and it says there are pending changes in your queries that haven't been applied, right? So let's first wait for it to get loaded. It will be very fast. My system might be slightly slow, but generally it's very fast, right? Because too many things are running on my machine. And in the meanwhile, I'll also give you a quick idea. So in the PPT, we're talking about importing the data. So we have imported a sheet that we want. It is slightly different than what we are having here. And then select a sheet to import. So we have selected a sheet to import, and then we load or transform the data. And transform can be done later also once the data is imported, right? So so let's see where our data is. So I've imported the data in Power BI, and let's see if it is loaded. So if I go to this data tab over here, so this was the report tab, data tab, and model tab. So if I go to data, so my data is looking like this over here, right? You see this? Okay.
So Manu, I think your screen is fridge. I am not able to see this
Okay,
is
okay,
moving.
okay. I'll share
So
my screen.
Deepak, we can see it's moving.
Okay.
Okay, let me check my network.
Okay. Shall I proceed?
Yeah, Manu.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So let me just quickly go to this data. So I'm showing you the data as it is in Excel also. This will, because this will help you understand it in a better way. So this was the 8th sheet that we imported, right? This was the data that we imported, and these were the few lines on the top which were blank, and it was showing as null. And this column on the right, it was showing null because for some reason it is taking it, because I have this data here. That's why for some reason I might have put it here. That's why it took this column also. Now coming back to Power BI. So you see this, those two rows on the top are not showing here, most likely because it sorted the data. So let me, just like in Excel, you can just click here and you can say sort ascending. So you see, I have these things, right? So this blank row, one of the blank row is gone and one is there. So it might be because of some reasons. Maybe it just deleted the first row because it was totally blank. So don't worry, whatever you're seeing here is still valid, right? So what I want to do is I want to first remove this blank row, right? So what I do, what I can do is I can just put a filter on blank and say okay. Okay. So once I filter it, right, then it will automatically get rid of that blank row. But this is my data view. I'm just playing around with the view of my data. I'm not actually doing anything to the underlying data. It is just in this view of this data, right? That is point number one. Point number two is the data on my system is lying here, and I am connecting to this data in Power BI. In the same way, you can connect to any data, whether it's on a system or it's on a Google Drive or it's somewhere in the database. It's up to you. The underlying data will never be changed of what you're doing here until and unless you intend to do it using some other tools available here, right? Which is still tricky. So in short, data where it is, the source is safe and nothing happens there. Once you import this data in Power BI, then it creates you can say small blocks of this data inside Power BI, or you imported that data. Now this data inside your system, which is I'm seeing here, if you want to change it or manipulate it, then you can do that manipulation here, or which we call as transforming the data. Okay, is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
wonderful. Now, so this brings us to, give me a second, guys. Yeah, this brings us to Power Query Editor. I'll tell you what that is. So, in the last step, once we loaded the data, if we choose transform, then it opens the Power Query Editor window as shown like this. So, this window will become available once you choose transform. Whether you choose transform just after the load or while loading, or if you do it later after you have loaded the data. So, we have loaded the data here. Now, if we want to transform this data, right, then Power Query Editor will be activated. Okay. Now, this is the transform data option, and if you see the other tabs, if you click on other tab, then also this transform data option is available. You see this transform data. So, you can do transform data in any of these tabs. So, let's click on transform data. If I click on transform data, mind you, if I click here and I say transform data, then whatever I'm doing to this data, it is actually getting preserved or recorded. And then I can one last time say that, okay, this transformation I want to accept and I want to transform that data as per the selected steps. Let's go there, click on transform data. And once you click on transform data, you see this window changes. It says Power Query Editor on top. You see this one? This is the Power Query Editor. And I'll just quickly talk about few things in Power Query Editor before I go there. So Power Query Editor is also available in Excel. Okay, this is also available in Excel. If I'm not wrong, 2016 and later had Power Query Editor. My Excel is somehow not showing Power Query Editor. Generally it used to, but I did something to my system, so it's not working. I'll fix it and show you maybe in the next class. But this window is very easily, it's exactly the same. If you go to data here, and if you go to yeah, so somewhere here it's available. I'll exactly show you where it is. So in here you can get the data, right? In you can see the Power Query Editor in Excel, right? In your machines you might be able to see it. I think try to do it. See if I can just. Second. Not this one. Excel files. Okay, I think this is the one, I guess. No, not this one. So I think mine is an older version, I guess. Let me see which version I'm using. Because actually my IT guy just did something and it's not working for me anymore since he last did that. Okay, anyways, let it be. So anyways, so your Power Query Editor is available here also in Excel. Exactly the same screen. It's exactly the same screen the way you're seeing it here. It's available in Excel. So if you guys can explore it and figure it out, it would be somewhere here. Go to data sheet, and somewhere here you would be able to see run query or something like that. So I'll show it to you in the next class. Okay. Now, so coming back, this is the Power Query Editor, and we came here because we use the transform data option, right? Our sheet name is visible here. I've named the sheet as 8, so that's why it's showing here 8. Okay, and so like we said, we wanted to do something. So now these null rows are available here because this is showing us the exact data. So first of all, I want to get rid of these null values, right? So what I'll do is I'll use column 2 because it shows null here and null here. But in this case, it is showing something else, right? So what I intend to do is filter out all the null values in this column, right? So I'll use this drop down menu and I'll filter out null. I didn't use filter here because in here null is only in this, and this one is showing this some other thing. So it would be very easy to filter from this column. So it's up to you how you want to do it. And also note, once I do something here, the applied steps over here, these keep on changing. Whatever I'm seeing here is because of what we have done so far while importing the data. So these are just like the macros or the VBA code in Excel. So it gets recorded. Only thing is over there it's VBA in Excel. Over here there is this different programming language that Power Queries use. So let's do that. I'll first of all filter out null and I say okay. So you see those rows are gone, and over here a new step, filtered rows come up. If I double click it, so it also gives me a graphical user interpretation. You can change this step over here if you want. Maybe in the first step you did something which you didn't like, you can change it here also, or you can just use this cross which becomes red once I hover over it. You can cross this and that change gets undone. So let's do it again. I'm filtering it out and I say okay, and that step gets added, filtered rows. So now I have filtered the rows. Okay. Next is I have these headers, right? I want to use this first row, which is this first row, as a header. So if you see here in the home tab in this Power Query itself, there is use first row as header. If I use this drop down menu, it says use first row as header or use header as first row. So in this case I want to use first row as header, so I just use this drop down menu, and though this is selected, I just selected once again. So once I click that, you see it says promoted headers 1 and change the type. It automatically changes the type also because some of them are text fields. So I'll come to change type, but it has promoted that first row as header, and now that first row becomes the header. You see this? If I scroll left to right, you see everything is converted to header. And then change type 1, this step automatically is added because if you note, each of the column has this small icon over here. It says ABC here, it says 1, 2, 3 over here. If I click on these icons, you see there are these options available. I can change this data type to all these options. So let's do few of changes. This serial number, which is like an ID, I don't want to use it as a number because this is a identifier. I want to convert it into text field. So I just use this text, and this 1, 2, 3 changes to ABC, right? And you see change type, this again one step gets added. So it changes this column to text type, and the steps keeps on getting added here. Last thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this column because this is an extra column, right? And this serial number, this is an extra column. Maybe this is coming from something I did in the past. So I want to get rid of these columns. If you're seeing this serial number _1, you also can select this and this also. Press shift and select both of this. So click on this, then press shift key, click on this. So both get selected simultaneously. And then I can, there would be an option to delete a column. So you can see this remove columns. So I click on this, remove columns, and those two columns get removed. And you see removed column step gets added here. So now I think my data is in good shape, right? And everything is working fine. So if everything is fine, then
one question. Hi Rajiv. I'm Anu. Good morning.
Hi Rajiv.
So anything gets changed in the original sheet, or the original sheet remains the same, the Excel sheet where we're importing the data from?
So like I said, my data is here. What in the source, nothing gets changed.
Right.
To answer you in short, whatever is in the
Oh,
source in your repository, it never gets changed. Whatever changes we are doing is happening inside Power BI. I mean, that's I think the simplest example.
Got it.
Right.
And why is the serial number not changing to ABC?
This one?
Yeah, like you mentioned that serial number you want to change it to ABC,
Uh-huh.
but I can still see 1, 2, 3.
I mean, over here or these?
I meant the numbers, yeah, these 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, okay. So what I meant by this is I'm changing these numeric fields into type text. So what's happened now is, even though I'm seeing 1 here, but this 1 is now treated as a text field. Let me show you something which we did in the Excel class. So if I am saying 1, 2, and 3, so these are numeric fields, right? So if I try to add them, I can add these fields, right? But if I convert them to text, like if I say 1, 2, 3, right? So now these become text fields. If I sum them,
Got it. You can't add them
you
or
can add them. But
yeah,
you can now do a text like modification to them. For example, I can do left 1 to it. So it will give me 1 character from the left, right? So, or I can say 2 character from left, something like this. So which would not have been possible if they were numeric fields. So for some reasons, you might want to convert numeric fields to text or text to numeric fields. For example, employee IDs. You would not want employee IDs which are like 1, 2, 3, 4 to be treated as numbers, because you don't want to add numeric employee IDs. Maybe you want to just count them. So I hope that clarifies that out, right?
yeah, got it. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And these do not change to ABC because I want to keep them as just their nature is now text like. Okay.
They can't be added now, right?
Now they cannot be
Added or
yeah.
yeah. Got it.
And I can change them to other data types also. Maybe I want to change something to percentage or date or something, right? Okay. Now if whatever changes I did, which are being recorded here, if I am satisfied with them, you can have a look, scroll left and right or up and down, and if you're fine with everything, then what you can do is you can say close and apply over here, right? Don't click it as of now, just see what I'm doing first. So there is this close and apply option. If I use this drop down menu, it says close and apply and close. So I'll just for simplicity's sake, just use close and apply. Okay, just do close and apply. Just click over this, and what it's doing is it is recording our query, whatever steps we did, and our data gets, you see, changed, and everything worked well for us now. And if you see our data model also, so this data model is showing us our fields here, right? And I can hide and unhide these fields over here, these sections over here, and we're good to go. Okay. Now, what is the benefit of this query? So you might be saying that we could already do this in our Excel sheet or in a data source. So few points of advice here. Number one, first of all, if possible, if you can do all these changes in the data outside, and if it makes your life easy, then please do it outside only, because if you do it inside, it will take some time to run the query and your system will be slightly slow. It might be, if not that slow, maybe it will take hardly a fraction of a second if the system is at its full efficacy. But if you're not very sure, then maybe you can do it here also, right? But advisable is whatever is possible, try to do it outside. And again, using the business logic and everything, your use case and everything. Now, I'm going to remove, don't do it at your end. I'm going to delete this data from this model. So it says delete table. Are you sure you want to delete it? Can you see this screen, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm deleting it. Right? And my data model becomes blank. If I go to my data sheet, data is gone and nothing is there, right? So actually I removed the data, and I will again import it. Please, you don't do this step. You do it once I've done it, and I'm again importing the same data. Now that data, if you know, had the same junk in it. It had few blank cells. It was taking this empty column over here. So I'm intentionally importing the same data again. And the 8th sheet, and you see this data has these blank row on the top, and also it would have that blank column at the extreme right. Okay, so I say load. Right now, the data is loaded. And if I go to, one second.
So Manu, it has already done all those steps again without.
No, not now, not now. I'll tell you, but that was the idea actually. Okay, so I think I did not save that query. Okay, so basically what I was trying to, let's do it again. So I'll do that step. I actually did not save the query. So I filter the null. Okay, I use the first row at header, so it goes over there, and then I go to the, actually I forgot to save the query. No worries, don't worry. So I'll go here, because the view I was seeing in data was some other view. When I use this query view, then you see all these things are still there. So it has not removed it yet. And then I remove the column, remove the columns, remove columns. Okay, and everything looks fine. And then I also changed the first, this to ABC, right? So to text, so like this. And then over here, say close and apply, right? And okay, and then if I file, save as, and let's say this is demo Power BI. I'm just saving this file, and it is Power BI file .pbix. That is the extension, right? So you see, pbix is the Power BI file. pbit is the template file. Don't bother about the template file. Just .pbix is the file extension that you use, which is by default selected, and I say okay. So now, since I've saved the file, right? Now this file I'll close, and I'll again go to my, this file is here. You see this Power BI. So this is the file type. You see the icon over here. If I open it now by clicking it, so I didn't, you have to save the file once, okay? Let it open. I hope everybody is with me so far. Anybody has any doubts?
Yes.
Yes, as in you have doubts or no doubts?
So with you,
Okay,
Manu.
okay. Are you able to follow what I'm doing?
Yes,
Yes, madam.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so now I open the file, and the data is there, right? Now, if I remove the data, or let me do one thing, let me do it in a better way. Let me, so there were these many rows, right? Empty rows. I'll add few more rows. So you see, I have added these many extra rows. But if you see remember the steps, what the step was doing? It was filtering on the column 2 and removing all the null values. So these would also be null in that sheet. So if I save this file now, right? So, and if I see the data here, right? This is the old data, right? I have not refreshed it. And if I go to my home here, right, and refresh the data, so it will again connect to the same file, same data. You should not change the position of the file. That's the only thing that you have to take care of. As long as the folder position is same, it will still talk to the same data, and your data is updated now, right? It's a refreshed data, but it will automatically do the same changes, which means it has already filtered the data and used the existing queries and cleaned your data. So which means once your query is written, it's already there and you don't have to repeat the task the next time the data comes to you. So I think that's a very useful feature, right? Because the same repetition is gone now. It's already recorded in your query, and you just have to import the data. That's all, right? So, and you see that those queries are still there. So these would be run on the refresh. So that's the beauty of Power Query. The steps get recorded.
Manu, can we change the steps also? Like for example, in the first time, we might have done 4 steps in Power BI, and then we realized, oh, sorry, we had to do 5 steps instead of 4.
Right.
Can we change the steps?
Yes, you can do that. So for example, there are these steps, right? Sorry, not this one. It's Power Query is available under transform data, right? So these are the steps. So for example, I removed the columns. You see this remove columns. I click here, I double click here. So if I single click it, the formula is available here, right? And if I double click it, somehow my mouse is okay. So I think in wherever the option to see a GUI is available, it will show you the GUI like this one, right? This one. So you can change. If I double click it and if it throws up a window like this, so it gives you the option, the changes you can do to this step, right? Otherwise, you can just have a look at this. If I click here, you see this one, and I'm seeing this formula. So you can, that because you were removing the columns, you can make out the column names are here, right? So even though you don't know these formulas, these are basically DAX formulas, DEX, DAX formulas. So you can manually very well infer that if I have to remove another column, let's say for example regions, so I can just type regions here inside this. Obviously you have to be a little cautious that you're typing it inside the bracket and the syntax doesn't go for a toss, but you can make these changes here, and then you can again say apply and close, and that extra change would be done. Or if you want to remove a step, you can cross here, remove it, and or maybe add another step. All those can be done, and then you have to ensure that you close and apply here so that that query get registered, and then save the file once. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Manu.
Okay.
This is good for repetitive, suppose if you're drawing some report out of 4, 5, 6 sheets. So once you know how many steps to sort of, incorporate, Power BI will record it for you and you don't need to manually do it every time.
Yes.
This is useful there, right?
Yes. Yeah. And if people, if you're interested to explore further, you can go to this advanced editor here. If you click here, so this gives you the underlying code behind these steps. This is like in Power BI, in VBA macros. So these are the steps. This language is known as the M language, M as in moon. So this is one of the recent developments by Microsoft. Recent means, I mean, it's been quite some time, but this is a new programming language developed by Microsoft, and this is known as the M. The language is known as M. And it's very easy to understand. If you see the steps and try to relate the code line, you can very well infer from it. And from this, you can manipulate your codes. Whatever you do here will reflect here, but you have to be very careful about the syntax and all. So if you're not very conversant with this, don't do anything here. It might throw things haywire. But record your steps, test it few times, and then put it into live application. Okay. So today we're doing some basic things. So I'll not tell you very complex things here, but in short, our query is recorded. We have got our data inside, and our data model is also ready. Data model means the final shape of a data and the architecture of it. I can import more data here, right? For example, I can add more data. I'll get, you don't have this data right now, but I'll maybe in the next few classes, we'll do this also, this exercise, which uses Excel also. So I'll import a data field, which is the codes. So I have some codes here, which are, so I'm importing another Excel file and I'm using region codes here. So I'm using the region codes from here. Region codes are nothing but like this, and I am loading this file. Okay. and I say apply changes because whatever are there, I want to import it. And then if I see my data, if I select region code here, and then I go to this data, or you see this, there are two sheets, two workbooks now, the 8 sheet, which was the original data, and this region code, which has these many sheets, which has these many columns from the sheet I've selected, right? So if I select this, the data changes here. If I select this, the preview changes here, right? So I want to use this region codes, but still I have some issue because this first row is not coming as header. So I want to transform this sheet also. Don't worry, we'll do this exercise together. I'm just trying to show something else over here. And I want to change this region codes sheet, and I want to use first row as header. And then I want to apply and close. So now my code and name would be promoted as header names, right? So I have two fields here, right, in my data model. So now the name here, if you see the data, the name here is the region name and the code here is the region code. Whereas in this data, in the other data, let me just show you that first. The regions were east, west, north, south, right? These were the regions. You already know this data. So this region column in this sheet 8 is equivalent to the name in the region code sheet, right? I hope everybody understands that. Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So in my data model, I know this name is equivalent to the regions here. So if I want to bring the corresponding code from this sheet to this, which we do using VLOOKUP, if you remember Excel, what I can do is I just need to map the corresponding name in this, or the corresponding column in this sheet with, or in this data, with the corresponding name in this data. So the name corresponds to region. I click on name, press the left mouse button and drag it over regions. You see this is dragging, something is in the background, and put it over regions. And it creates a connect over here. And this connector, if you click here, it tells you, if you double click here, it tells you what kind of connect it is. It is many to one, one to one, one to one, many to one. So what these are, I'll tell you sometime later. But whatever it's doing automatically, most of the time it will do correctly. So it creates this connect. And what happens because of this connect is, now this code is available inside this data also. Or basically they are logically connected, if I may say that, right? And this is one of the basic features of model. So now you don't have to do VLOOKUP and everything. Now you have connected it here. Every time you want to connect your dynamic data with some existing data like this, which this is a factual data, right? The code and the name, the region name and code will always be fixed. For example, your department code or something else will always be fixed. What will change is here. For example, your employee ID will always change. Your designation, your salary will keep on changing as long as you stay with the organization, right? So your IDs field can be in a separate table, or which can be here, and then you link it with your designation and your current salary and stuff, right? So I hope you can relate it with your practical use cases, the day-to-day routine work you do. So this way you create your data model, and you can connect as many data sheets as you want in here, and this will help you in creating a model in wherein different data sets talk with each other, right? So you might not have done it right now, this region code. Don't worry about it. We'll do it together in the next class, but I just wanted to show you how data models work. Okay. So I'll just delete this from the model for the time being. And we're back to the original data. And I think everybody has this, right? So we will try to do some visualization using this. So everybody has this data. One last time asking, and it's all cleaned up. Can you please confirm?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody who does not have this data at this stage in Power BI, please let me know. Okay. So like I said in my PPT, when you use transform data, your Power Query editor comes up, and then you can see the headers here, like of the data, and then you can click on the data type like I did and change it data type, and all these steps get recorded over here, right? So I think we already did that. So in the ribbon over here, you have this home tab, transform tab, add columns. Most of the times you'll use these three only, but again, depending on a use case, I've highlighted the important ones over here. So now let's get to the meat of things, which is creating the visualization, right? So for that, you need to use these fields which are visible in your visualization tab once you import the data, and then you select the visualization you want to create, right? Let's say I select this one, and then once you select it, you adjust the visualization canvas by dragging these corners and these draggable fields areas, sorry, and then you move the fields in respective area, and then you get your visualization, right? So that's how you create your visualization. So let's try to do it together. I go to my visualization tab, and let's try to create our first visualization. So please hold on to your horses. Please don't do anything yet. Please do things along with me. So I have this data. You have the state, region, and everything, and you have these numeric fields also. So tell me one visualization that we can very easily create from this and which would make some sense. Anybody?
State-wise population.
Okay, wonderful. So state-wise population, and how would you create that? Which chart would you use out of these? So I think a bar chart would be a good thing to do it,
Bar
right?
chart.
I mean, even you can use something else also, but obviously you would not use a pie chart, because let's say there are so many states in a pie, it would look very clumsy. So let's first select the visualization. So I'm using this one. The moment I click this, it gives me a highlighted area like this, the small corner over here. I can adjust it by dragging this corner or by dragging this notches over here, right? So let's say this is a rough, this is somewhat a rough shape I want to have in terms of the overall area it is occupying. And the moment I clicked this, you see these options over here get populated, right? Came up. So in x-axis, so I want to create the map like this. I want to have state names over here and population over here. So on the x-axis, I want to have population, and on my y-axis, I want to have my states. So if I drag it like this, so this visualization comes up like this. Automatically, it sorts the data because UP, Uttar Pradesh, has highest population, and Goa would be having lesser population. So from highest to lowest, it is getting populated like this, right? So this is a bar chart of state versus population, and I got this by putting my population and state on x and y axis like this. If I have a legend, you see this legend here. What does a legend do? It kind of highlights or categorizes the data. So let's say if I have this region here, let's see what happens if I put region to legend. So you see each of the region gets colored. East is in this color, this color, central, north. So color wise, I'm getting these legends, right? Let me just make it a little bigger. And because there are too many data points, so I'm getting automatically it gives a scroll bar over here. So you can scroll it right this, right? So by dragging fields to legend, it gives me color based on the legend. Okay. So if you want to hide the region where each state is, you can drag region to legend. Okay. You can do it if you want, but right now I just want to get rid of this, and you can add tooltips here. So what is the tooltip? If you hover your mouse over here, so you see there are this options coming up, like, so for example, this is showing state and the population and everything. So if I, let's say, want to add literacy rate also to tooltip, so what I'll do is I'll drag literacy to tooltip, and I get that literacy figure also over here, and it is showing sum of literacy. You see this one, sum of literacy, but literacy is a percentage term, right? You cannot sum it, right? So you need to use average. I hope everybody understand this, right? You cannot sum the literacy. If I show you in the data, So this is literacy, right? So literacy at this in this stage is 84%, 84.53, 84.06. You cannot add this literacy, because if you add this, you see the sum is going beyond 100. You cannot add percentages. So it would be good to have the average literacy, for instance. So I'm using average literacy. And now if I hover over this, you see now it is average literacy 74.86. So it is taking average of all the underlying districts in this state of West Bengal and giving you an average literacy. So you can bring the fields to the tooltip. So everybody please do this. It should be a good thing to do. Okay, everybody's done it? Anybody who has done it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm just giving you very see, because we have hardly half an hour left, and I'm just showing you few very basic examples, and then you can practice it during the week with all the other options as and when you want, right? So you just play with it with what I'm telling you, right? So I'm not going into each and everything. So I'm skipping few things here, like drill through and all. They will come up a little later. Now let's go to this format. The second thing that you should explore is this format. If you click here, you see this format has visual and general, and all these options are here. So let's explore this. If I go to y-axis, it shows values, fonts, and everything. So if I want to change something, let's say I want to change the color of the y-axis, you see the font changes, the color changes here, right? You can change the font size and the font type also. If I reduce the font size or if I increase the font size, you see this, it is changing over there. So you can do all these things. Very straightforward, you know it, you already done it in Excel, I guess. So let me stick to the font size 9, and let me also stick to the black color because it is quite a bit visible here, right? Then all these options are here, right? I'm not going into each one of them. Title text. So it is, let's say I'm saying, I want to use this. So you see that the title of the y-axis changes, right? So I've changed everything to capital state, right? Or if you want to use automatically, so automatically it will pick up the column name, whatever is there, right? So I want to use the state, like, sorry, all in caps. So I use this, and then you can even change the font of this. So let's say I want to make this a little bigger. So I'm using a font size of 20, let's say. So this is state, and maybe I want to use the different color for state. Let's say a blue color, right? Something like this. Same way you can change it for this. I'm not doing it for the x-axis. I've done it for the y-axis. Okay, so we did it. We did the formatting of y-axis. X-axis you can do on yourself. Grid lines. Grid lines is basically the support lines, so that you see that this is this area in x-axis. So this helps you to see the graph with this grid lines. If you want to switch them off, you can switch them off, and the grid lines are gone, right? So might not be very much visible because they're very fine right now because of the color. Let's say if I make it black in color, these are the grid lines, see? And if I switch them off, they are gone, right? So you can change the grid lines. Bar, so the color of the bar, if you want to change it, you can change the color of the bar like this. Okay, I don't want to use it, so I can use Control Z to undo it, like in Excel, Control X. Okay, and let me show you what other options are available. So there is inner padding here, so you can use some. So inner padding is basically there is a space in between, so you can adjust this, okay, as per your liking. If I want to, you see what's happening if I'm changing the padding. So it gives, if you want to give a different look and feel to your data, you can change the padding, right? Data labels, if I turn them on, it gives me data labels over here, right? So there's some things you can do with the data labels over here, right? And I can keep them or not keep them, okay? And then the position of this is interesting. So if my data labels are like this, and if I change the position to, let's say, inside end, so it comes inside this, right? And since this is too small, you cannot see them. but otherwise they come inside the bar, or you can position them to the extreme left inside base. So at times it becomes interesting to have the data inside the bar, and also you will adjust them depending on your bar. Maybe if there are only 4 or 5 bar, then it becomes easy to do it inside it, right? So just play around with these options. I'm just showing it to you, and you can play around with it, okay? And if you want to display units, you can change all these things. Background, right? So if I want to this is not okay. Let's ignore this as of now, because I'll have to bring in some other example for that. Data labels we have done. Plot area background. So if you want to change the background of this, you can change the background. For example, you can add some image in the background, right? So let me, there are no pictures. Okay, let me just bring up some pictures. Give me a second. So let's say I want to add this picture in the background. So this, I selected this picture and it came in the background, right? I can adjust the transparency of this so that your attention is not going here. Visualization is all about making your data talk, and also targeting your audience's eyes or eyeballs on the things that are important and more relevant. So this logo is just for branding. I don't want to use it for too much of, it should not be like kind of dragging the attention here instead of the bar. So I'm just making it transparent. So it's still there like a watermark, but your attention is more over here, right? So that's good. And you can reset to default to bring everything back to the original shape. This is for further analysis. We'll discuss it a little later, maybe in next future classes. And then there are a few other options in the general tab. So let's stick to these only. And I have got up till here, up till this stage. Okay. So you can, I think everybody has got this, what do you say, bar chart so far, right? Is it so?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's do something interesting, right? So now here where the actual fun starts. So now let's try to imagine what we can do with this data. So let's say this is my visualization area. Let's say this is the canvas, right? Let me just also get rid of the grid lines. Okay, so this is my visualization area. I'm just painting it with some light color. So this is my area. Now, first of all, always know that this area, leftmost area, is what catches the attention of a human eye at the first go. So whenever you're looking at a page, your attention will always be on the leftmost area, and it will be least on this area. So most of the important things should go here or on the top side like this, right? So most that important ones should go here, right? So I'm just coloring them with priority, right? So highest priority is here, then next highest priority should be here, right? And then next here, and then next here. So let's just imagine a quadrant kind of thing. Most of the times it will not be a quadrant, these 4 quadrants, but this is how the human eye behaves, or at the centermost part. Just like generally fades from here, most high priority and least priority, something like this. So let's say I want to create this dashboard. So what I want to do is I want to put some headers here, right? So like, for example, I want to put what is the population of India over here, right? Maybe how many states, how many regions, and how many districts. Maybe some data over here, right? Over here in the first few rows over in this case, I want to put like this, and maybe like this. Okay. Then I want to put a map of India over here. Let's say, okay, I want to put a. Let's say let's forget map. Map we'll discuss later. Let me put a bar chart of regions. Right. I want to put a bar chart of regions here, right? And if I click on any region over here, it will show me the corresponding districts. So district bar chart, and I want to show a let me say state bar chart and district bar chart, just to keep it really simple, right? So I want to keep it really simple as of now because we're just getting to learn things today. And then this is how our very first visualization should look like, right? So first plan it like this. Okay, so we have planned it like this. Now let's go to our visualization. So for the time being, I'm just keeping this first row over here. We'll just have these 3 charts, and then maybe if time permits, we'll do the top one. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just get rid of everything from here. I'll click here and delete, press the delete button, and the chart is gone. I have a blank canvas here. So let's go to our planning sheet. How we planned it? We first need a bar chart of regions. So let's go to region. First let's have a bar chart here. So one bar chart, this is for region, and I drag region to x-axis, right? So I just left click and drag it, regions, and then population on x-axis. So I get a region wise. We can always format all these stuff, but for the time being, I'm keeping it like this. So east, south, all these things are there, right? I'm just getting rid of this because I don't need it right now, closing it. Next is state bar chart. So I again bring a bar chart. I hope everybody is doing along with me, right? Is everybody following me and doing with me? This we have to do along with me, right? Are you doing it with me,
Yes.
guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have created this region sheet, and I've taken half the canvas for this region. We can always drag this. It will help us. It will automatically give us some help to position this thing. Okay. Next is a bar chart. So again, a bar chart. Okay. I think it's going. Yeah, it's here, and I want to adjust it. This would be the which one? This is a state bar chart. So I want to adjust it like this, and you see this red line comes up when it's the middle section. So it gives a good way to adjust at precise locations. Now this is my state bar chart. I drag state to regions and population to x-axis. So I drag population to x-axis. So I get this state-wise population. Okay, and lastly, I want to again create a district-wise chart. It automatically fits in here, so it's smart enough to guess. Otherwise, you can adjust it. And this time, I drag district to my because I'm dragging it to x-axis, the district, and population to y-axis. Sorry, x-axis. So I get the district-wise. So, and you see there is this scroll bar because there are so many states and districts over. So I get a scroll bar over here also, over here also. Now, so this is my what do you say, my region chart, my state wise chart, and my district wise chart. Okay. Now I can go to this insert, and I can even insert a text box here. So let's do that. This is my regions. Okay, so I say regions, and I want this to be really big like this, and I want to use a color which is my theme color. So you see the color and everything, this adds to your look and feel also, and it also helps you create some branding thing also. So all these things I will cover a little later. You can use a down key, or you can just drag it down like this and bring it here, right? And I'll just adjust the chart size as a instead of, so I'll just bring it back here and just do it like this, so that I have regions over here. Actually, you can bring this, now it has come up somehow. Okay, or you can bring this yeah. So okay, this is regions. Likewise, you can put a text for this and this, right? Okay, so that is not important. The idea was I was trying to tell you that you can bring in text fields here and you can adjust them. That is not a problem. Okay, now if you click on any region like east, so it highlights those states in that east region and the corresponding district here. As a matter of fact, if I click this Uttar Pradesh here, So it is in the east region in this data. I mean, again, Uttar Pradesh could be north in some other data. The data that we have, it has Uttar Pradesh in east region. So that is fine. And then the corresponding districts are also highlighted here, right? So this is the interactivity, which is so important in all modern day visualization tools, right? So this is what we are highlighting. We are highlighting these, right? So once we click here, it gets highlighted. But what if you want to filter based on this? You want to click on something and it should filter here, which is again a very good to have feature. So what you do is, so you click on the chart. Like say I want to click on this region chart and bring in interactivity in these two charts. So I want to change the interactivity based on this main chart. So I click on the region charts, right? And then click on format. So once you click on format, you click on edit interactions. Okay. So again, I'll repeat it again for you. Suppose you're here, you're in the home tab, and let's say you are in this sheet. You first click on this regions chart because I want to bring in interactivity here. Then you click on format. Then you click on edit interaction. And the moment you click edit interaction, right, you see these options come up here. You see these? This is selected, right? Because this is highlighted right now. So that's why I'm getting these options. If it's unselected, then those interaction options are gone, right? So click edit interactions. Now what it means is, if I click anything here, it should do these things to this chart. And for this, the interaction things are hidden somewhere. If I click here, sorry, click here, we'll have to figure out where these are. I'll just show you where they are. So let's say if I use this interaction, this is for filtering, this is for highlight. So highlight is already what's happening. I want to filter this time. So if I select filter, right? So now what will happen is, if I select anything here, sorry, 1 second. Yeah. Still not filtering actually. Oh, okay, it's filtered. Okay, this one is for this one actually. So for this, it's hidden somewhere here, I guess. 1 second. See, what's happening is when I did that change, that this one is for this chart. So if I'm selecting any region, it is giving me underlying districts over here, right? So for example, central or northeast actually, it's giving me those regions, these districts in this region. And for this, I'm not able to locate where that interaction, maybe if you're able to see in your sheets, it's fine. But this option for this is not highlighting properly. So what I'll do is, my mouse is also a little troublesome. I'll just make them a little small so that I can locate the interaction. Now I can see it clearly. This is for the interaction things for this chart. So I'll filter this also. Now I bring it back to the original shape. You might have to do this adjustment now and then. Okay. So now you see, if I select a region, it gives me the underlying state and the underlying districts, right? So I'm bringing a interactivity here of filtering. So it was pretty straightforward, no rocket science. But the only thing now is, if I'm selecting a region, it is giving the underlying state and all the underlying districts, because these are the districts from this region, which includes Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana. So I'm getting states of Delhi, districts of Delhi also, and of other states also from this. So it would be better if I can click here and it shows me the filtered districts here. So again, what I can do is I can select this chart this time, go to format, edit interaction, and then in this chart, in this sheet, again, so in this edit interaction, and in this chart, I want to filter based on the state selected. So what I want to do is, if I select a state, it should filter the districts here also. So it's just that how you're bringing in your interactivities, and then once I'm done, I just unselect the interaction so that it does not change anything else, and I just adjust it. So basically I have brought in two interactivities or two interactions. One is if I select this, it changes everything here and here, and if I select this, it changes or filters things here. So let's check, have a check. So this is the population. Let's say I'm saying in East region is highest population. Let me check out in East which are the most populated state. In this, Uttar Pradesh is the most populated. Let me check, click here. In Uttar Pradesh, this is the highly populated district. So this way I'm bringing an interactivity, right? And you can do a lot of other things in here. For example, you can bring in some really interesting visualization. The most important one is the map, but I'll cover map in the next session because it takes some time. It's very easy, but I need to put some time to make you understand the maps. But let me show you one interesting chart, and then we can close the session. So this one is basically a decomposition tree, and if I want to see that how much population is coming from which region, in which state, and in which district, I can use a decomposition tree. So for example, I want to use population as values, okay, and sorry, yeah. So one second, let me just quickly check this. Yeah, so not this one. Where is regions here? This one. Yeah, regions, and then state. It's gone. One second. I think it did not select it. Yeah, this one. So if I use this transform, this one, decomposition tree, if I select this, then I have these format, these options: analyze, explain by. Okay. So I add regions to explain by, okay, and then population to analyze, right? And let me see, I think I put regions to analyze, one second, and then population to explain by. No, so the other way around was correct. Okay. So explain by region and analyze the population. So region, next is state, sorry, drag it, state, below regions, because the hierarchy is region, then state, and then district. Right? Now see, so I'm explaining each geography, region, state, and district using the population to analyze. So I get this. Now you see this plus sign over here. Total population is this much. This is an old data, and it's also not correct. This is somewhat is what the population of India is. If I want to check further where it's coming from, and I said region wise, so these are all the places from where my population is coming from, right? There are these small joining lines. If I format these, right, and connectors, selected line also I want to make this. Okay, so you see this is coming like this. So each population is coming from these regions, and if I select a specific, if I select state from this, so it shows me each region, where each population is coming from, each state in each region, and I further can see where from each state these populations coming in from each district. So this way it gives me a good way to analyze my data, right? So this way I can see the decomposition of this population across different hierarchy of data. So I mean, why I showed you this was not because I wanted to show you decomposition, but I just wanted to create an interest in your head that you can create such interesting visualization and such interesting interactivity we just did. So imagine what you can do when you have all these visualization together coming in a report, and then you can have some wonderful reports and dashboard coming in. So with that, give me a second.